Hi there, my name's Gill Tiney. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. My name is Gill Tiney. I'm the founder of Collaboration Global, and one of our newest members is the wonderful Patrick Melville. Welcome, Patrick. Lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for the invite.
I'm really excited about having the conversation today because we kind of already started it, didn't we? Just before the meeting, just before we pressed the record button, that magic button. There are so many things that we could talk about in this episode. Because one of the things you're passionate about is good mental health. And I love the fact that a lot of people have had a trauma happen to them, and that's kind of given them awareness. But there are so many people out there that still don't have that awareness, and you kind of think, isn't it obvious? And it actually isn't. And I don't consider myself to have had a trauma, but when I look back at my life as a 10-year-old, yes, there was a lot of trauma going on, and you forget the things that have happened and tripped you up along the way that has an impact later down the line. But your impact came later. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Let's find out. This is about finding out about Patrick. And I understand you don't always get called Patrick.
No, exactly. I'm a non-Irish Paddy.
I love it. So do you celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
I sort of. We have got a flag. My middle kid, William, for some reason, has absolutely adores Ireland. So he loves the flag. When we've watched the Six Nations rugby, he's all over Ireland. But that's as close as we get. There's no Irish blood in the family.
So do you know why Patrick was chosen as your name?
Yes, I think it was going to be Edward, but my parents chose Patrick. My uncle was born on St. Patrick's Day. He should have been a Patrick, but he's called Mervyn. So my father and mother chose to grab it.
Oh,
And I'm a Patrick now, or Paddy, or non-Irish Paddy. I can do an accent. But it's Can you do one?
Oh, to be sure. Would you like a cup of tea? That's the one that we always go for. It's good if you could do Northern Irish. I find that a lot more difficult. I have to choose.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to work on that to the next episode.
Thank you. So you told us about William. Who else is at home?
So I've got 3 kids in total. So William is aged 12. I tend to talk in school years. So year 7, UK. And then you've got Oliver, who's older, who's year 9, so he's 14. And my youngest feisty daughter called Lucy, or Goosey, is 8 years old, and she is year 4. And I've got my lovely wife, and we are coming up to our wedding anniversary, 17 years.
Oh, that's lovely. Are you going to do something special?
Well, we got some ideas. We have in the past gone to concerts and stuff, and yeah, it's like one of those things. We want to make it us, and we got some really good stories which we're going to reminisce about, but obviously kids get in the way. I'm making an excuse, aren't I? Yes, we will.
And you have to work out what 17 equates to, isn't it?
Yes.
I've got no, is it tin or something? It's usually something quite like string or something. You're like, oh, well, what can we do with string? And you can't. Yeah. You got to get to the big ones like 25 and 30.
Well, yes, I'm saving money for that. And luckily my wife is very she says I'm low maintenance in the way that I could take her to a super smart restaurant. She goes, no, I just want to go to a pub and have a pint of beer.
Oh,
So I love that. But she's great. Let's chat with her. That's our goal.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So what attracted you to the idea of Collaboration Global and the community that we're looking after here?
It's something just, some people believe in coincidences. I don't. Happy to dig more into that. But the idea is that I was part of another network and I just wanted to move into another one. And Collaboration Global just stood out as a place to be honest and to try something else. I've come to the 2025 in terms of repurposing my work, trying to find my purpose as well, just stepping back. And the Global Collaboration, like yourself, like the other members, I've already had chats with them who listen and just give me that support to know that I am doing the right thing and to, confidence that to give it a go. It might not work out first time. That space to to learn a bit more about myself as
Mm.
well. Whilst, we have this long cricket innings. I'm a big cricket fan. I played my first game for the season last night.
Oh, wow.
And it's like an innings, and
Yeah.
you gotta just don't go in and slog. You go in and build your confidence. You get to know the pitch. You get to know everyone around you. You get the ones who are trying to hit you in the face.
What a good analogy, isn't it? Everyone picks different things of looking at your journey in
Yeah.
life, but that is true, isn't it? You kind of there's a difference between belonging and fitting in, and when you've kind of found your purpose and you know where you are and you go, this is my legacy and this is why
Yeah.
I'm on this planet and I'm out to make a difference to people's lives. All of a sudden, you belong, and you belong to humanity, which is what we're talking about at Collaboration Global.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
When you're trying to fit in, it just feels a bit awkward and not quite, and
Yeah.
it then becomes the slog, doesn't it?
It does become, and I talk about the H's of healing, and I think, with my story and work, I get rejected all the time. C'est la vie, that's my choice, that's my business.
Yeah.
For various reasons. And I think one of the H's which I use and I promote is for healing is about sharing and being honest. And I think, linked to vulnerability in some ways, that can be a good way just to understand where are you.
Mm.
You're not going to get everything right first time. You're not going to get everything right necessarily everything all the time because there's people have a different perspective. And I think Collaboration Global is a good place just to be honest with that. And I'm early into this process, as you mentioned. So hopefully I'm confident, I can be honest and learn from that and see where this goes. I can't predict it.
No, and life would be boring if you could, wouldn't it?
Oh,
And I love the fact already you are being honest and open and vulnerable and saying, "Hey guys, I'd like some help with this. Can we have a look at this?" Because I don't know about you, but my
mm,
brain works in a way that I think I know what I want to do or the solution is or the answer to that problem, but I always want to sound check it to somebody else or preferably two or three to make me make up my mind and go, yes, that's what I'm going to choose to do. Now, it might be, they might tell me the complete opposite, but
mm,
I've heard myself talking to them. So
yes,
therefore, I can now formulate. And when
yes,
they ask me questions about it, it's like, well, obviously it's this and it's this and it's this. And so in
yeah,
the end, I might not change my mind, but at least I've checked in with them. I tell
yeah,
you, here's a lovely exercise that I did once a
yeah,
while ago. For anybody that has a problem, whatever your problem is, right? Whatever, yeah, I want to
yeah,
lose weight, I want to get fit, I want more money, blah blah blah. Imagine, and I did this in real life, right? I said to somebody who was a stranger, total stranger,
yeah,
who wasn't allowed to nod or shake their head or give me advice or even open their mouth, just give me eye contact and, as Chris Grimes would say, a damn good listening to. And
mm,
I had to talk non-stop for about 5 minutes, which
mm.
for me is not difficult, let's be honest. And so I thought, what do I talk about? Okay, I'll say about being fit. I'm going to talk about, I've always had that. I get so far and I don't quite actually get over the line. I'm
Yeah,
reasonably
yeah,
fit, I'm okay, but I could be so much better. So I started talking and talking, and you talk about the problem, you talk around the problem, you talk about solutions, you talk about what's getting in the way, and then you
mm,
pause,
mm,
and you're kind of waiting for this other person to talk back to you,
mm,
but they're not allowed. So you
mm,
then go, but then there's this, and then there's that, and I really thought about that. And by the end of the 5 minutes, you have found your solution.
mm,
And what
mm,
was ironic, and you said earlier you don't believe in coincidences, the person who was sat opposite me, who had been chosen out of about 100 people at random, sat opposite me, almost smiling to himself while I was talking. And before we swapped sides so that he could do the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
exercise, and I've worked out now that I'm going to get fit. Absolutely. There's nothing stopping me in my
yeah,
need to be fit. So I said, what do you do for a living? Keep fit instructor.
yeah.
Ironic, okay? So yeah,
I know.
we
I,
hooked up. But that's the thing for me, I need to kind of sound out what I'm thinking in order to get my ideas formulated for me
yeah.
to know what to do.
I've got my pen out already. You got me thinking about something else I need to do.
Oh,
And in fact, if anything, it was something that I discussed with you in our previous chats.
I love our chats. We have good chats. So let's start at the very beginning. As Julie Andrews would say, it's a very good place to start. You've
I could
told
hum.
me, I'll start singing if you're not careful.
Mm,
Um, you told me previously that you've been adopted. And
mm.
if anyone was going to guess where you were from, I'd like people to, your accent would certainly not give it away. Tell us the story
God,
of how, why, when you were adopted, and what effect that's had on you now.
that's a real, yeah. I mean, I'm a good story about adoption, really
That's
positive
lovely.
story. My parents wanted to adopt. They lived in Singapore
Oh,
in the 70s, and it was just really hard for people to do that if from the UK. And they had friends who adopted a child from Colombia, from Bogota.
wow.
My parents were really interested, so they got asked my friends how to get in touch, and my parents got in touch with this orphanage called La Casa de la Madre y el Niño. So I speak Spanish
Wow.
mainly because I uh, have that connection and that passion.
It's heritage. Why would
That-
you not
yeah.
want to learn your home language?
Yeah, and I wanted to collaborate, and obviously with them, and I've done a workshop in Colombia as well,
Wow.
mental health workshop.
Yeah.
And what happened was that they flew over and pretty much got a baby me. I was born in the orphanage, which is in Bogota, in a lovely place now. And they're still working. They've grown, but I'll come back to that. So basically, there was me. And my parents, from my early age, always told me that I was adopted. You hear drama stories of kids being adopted late, or parents not telling them, and
Yeah.
or the kids finding out that their brother's not their brother. I've got a sister. She's not my blood sister, but she's my adopted sister. She's my sister.
Wow.
My father's from Scotland. My mother is Dutch. They don't look, but sometimes actually people do say, "Oh, your mother looks like you."
Oh,
And it doesn't matter in that
yeah.
scenario. I've always praised it. I've been back when I was 18 to the orphanage. That was amazing, quite emotional to know, my blood was there. I went down a street with a BBC journalist in South America who luckily was a contact of a contact. He said, walk around with me. And I did. And he showed me the street, which is one of the most dangerous streets in Bogota, because everyone, recognized him and sort of understood his role
Mm.
to help. I met these kids, who were sort of, in some ways, okay, they weren't, but say at the same time, they were who I could have been.
Yeah.
In cricketing terms, it's like what I call I was given a not out because, how long could I have lived?
Yeah.
Who knows? And that kind of so many impacts it could have been. So I did that, and it pushed me forward to appreciate my life and to hopefully do something. And I speak Spanish now. And have you seen the film Philomena?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I cried in a way because I realized that my birthing mother
Mm.
never maybe didn't know how I was. I always was my side saying, yeah, I know where she is if I want to get in touch, but I didn't really.
Mm.
I got in touch with the orphanage, who I still do. I saw them actually. Lovely coincidence. Last Friday, the daughter of the current owner of it,
Yeah.
who's still involved, her as well. She lives in
Yeah.
Oxford, and she came over.
Oh
We
gosh.
all had a lunch together with my parents, talking about how lucky we are. And she showed me an album, 80 years to celebrate how long it's been running. And
Wow.
myself and my parents and my kids, those three generations, and my wife were in the photos. So
Oh.
we're a good story, but it's amazing how things come up. My daughter says to me, lastly, I'll mention this. She said, "Hold on, Patrick. So my grandparents aren't my grandparents." I was like, "Yes, they are." She goes, "Hold on, but you're adopted from Colombia." It's like, oh. So I'm still living through the process, but embracing it.
Yeah. Well,
And who knows? I'll see my parents one day.
it's that thing, isn't it, that when you go to doctors and they say, "Is there any heart disease in your family?" It only goes one generation for the kids, but it doesn't make a huge amount because quite often these things aren't
Yeah.
generational anyway. So, have you actually pursued finding your mum and dad? Do you know
Very
anything?
good point. I can't because all I know about my birth parents, and I've got the documents, is a lot of legal stuff, like through the lawyers in those days, through faxes,
Yeah.
but nothing much about them because they were through the orphanage, and I think they had an agreement the orphanage would not actively promote them to get in touch.
Wow.
All I know is my birth father was whiter skinned. He worked in a local bank, like a retail, like a local high street bank. My
Hmm.
mother was darker skinned and in working the market. So we don't know if they had if they were married, if they had other kids. There is a community from La Casa who I have been put together where we had a get together in 2019, I think.
Mm.
And some of them have gone and found their birth parents.
Wow.
And that's a big story, isn't it? When,
Mm.
you know, expectations. And again, this is a whole mental health thing as well. Sometimes you don't know what the outcome can be. I'm not saying yes or no if I had the opportunity, but I don't.
Mm.
Uh, but as I say, I think I'd be even calmer.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
have you left all your details at the orphanage so if she was to go back there, she could find
Correct.
out about you? Okay.
Yeah, she could see I'm okay. As that motherly aspect, and
Mm.
mm, I think some of my colleagues, sorry, my other adoptees,
Yes.
have had these conversations, found their birth parents on Facebook, you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
So it's an interesting one, and I think I just want to embrace it and take my kids to Bogota to
Mm.
show them where their blood is from.
And it's being at peace that you have been a blessing to your mum and dad, and you've had a good life, and they have blessed you. So
Yeah,
it's sometimes we get hooks up, I think, on blood relations and all this kind of.
yeah,
My mum and dad are now dead. My husband's mum and dad died when he was 21,
yeah.
and our kids didn't really know any grandparents. I mean, Nikki
Mm.
was 6 weeks old,
Mm.
when one of them died, and it was like they are so blessed now that they've got both sets of grandparents for their children.
Mm.
And it's just we have to take what we've been given and make the most of what we have. And when you've got a happy ending like that with your parents, that's a blessing on both sides, isn't it, really?
It is. It's too easy to do the what ifs, and I've learned that
Yeah.
fine sort of in several parts of my life, and I know we'll come on to that, but it's quite normal for the mind to really focus on what could have happened.
Yeah.
Quite defensive is quite, but if you understand that, then sometimes you can manage it in a better way and just, say, look at the good sides and say, well, that could have happened as well.
And there are some children out there that probably wish they'd been adopted because they don't like their parents or they don't, maybe they're in an awful situation and their parents are unable to parent them normally.
Yeah,
And they're stuck and they wish they could get out. So,
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's complicated.
So you come over to the UK. You've got lovely parents.
Mm.
When you were about 8 or 9, what was your thing that you were into? What was the thing that made you happy and gave you?
Very good point. I love sport. So I went to a school which played cricket and I got into it quite quickly.
Mm,
Cricket is, for anyone, you don't have to be an expert to understand what an amazing game it is, in the way that, unlike anything, you are a group, but at the same time, you're so by yourself. You need super resilience, like when you're batting and everyone's sort of
mm,
kindly talking to you in your ear, trying to put you off. No other sport. It's other sports are too quick. This one, in between, when the balls are bowled, as a batsman, you're by yourself, and you hear these these words coming to you, and at the same time, you work together as a team, proper community. And I really embraced that cricket thing. And my prep school, we had something called court cricket, where you had a wall and people used to go and bat. And bowlers, the whole school would come and bowl at that individual to try and if they got the batter out, then they would go and bat.
Yeah.
And so that whole process really got me into it and led me to one of my claims of fame
Oh,
that I'm an international cricketer.
really?
I played for Peru.
Oh,
I spent a year in South America, and there was an international game, Brazil, Peru, Chile, and Argentina. And got
wow.
talking. And my Colombian ancestry got me, was close enough for to say, come and
Oh,
work.
wow. I thought you were going to say you were a ringer. And they pulled you in because, oh, yeah, he can play. Let's bring him in. Yeah, he's from
Well,
Peru. He's all right. He's a good lad.
exactly.
You did
So
it.
yeah,
Brilliant.
Peruvian blood. But yeah, cricket was a great one, and it just got me talking, and it helped me when I got older and whole adolescence and these kind of tough schools to actually be able to manage those moments when, it's tough, adolescence, and then
Mm,
all this pressure and all this kind of need to fit in. And
yes.
cricket gave me something that actually I still do. I played cricket yesterday.
Ah, that's
Not
lovely.
as agile as I was before. I need
It's
some
really,
ideas.
it's really interesting to me that the things that people are connected to and have happy memories of are very connected to what they're doing now.
Mm.
And how you view cricket. I've never heard cricket spoken about like that before.
Mm.
No, I've heard about the tea towel that tries to explain the rules and nobody understands what the rules are.
Yeah.
But the actual understanding that people are talking to you and kind of getting into your head about what you're doing, and it's a psychological game as well as a physical game,
Yeah.
and the fact that you have to be in tune with your team in order to come together as one
Yeah.
it's really interesting that when you consider what you do now, we haven't even scratched the surface of that, but when you consider what you do now as a mental health advocate, it really does see that starting point and that little stepping stone of
Mm.
where you've come to. Now you understand the essence of what community is about. You
Yeah.
understand the essence of communication and how important that is, and connection, and
Yeah.
understanding where people are coming from and where they want to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that classic cliche, but I've learned to appreciate cliches, when it's when you stop, take yourself away, a bit like our 2025 chat about me, what am I doing? And I look back and I think, wow, how high, like a mountain climber. You look back and go, oh my gosh, I'm so high.
Mm,
And you look at all those boulders you just avoided, or the 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 learning you did, or the people who helped you to go around, and now they're on another track. You
mm.
just appreciate how high you are, and don't look at sort of your feet only.
Well, it's interesting because some people see that analogy from a point of view of you get to the top of the mountain and then you look over there and oh, there's that mountain and there's that mountain and I've got
Yeah.
to climb that one, and you forget to look down and go, I've
Mm.
climbed this one already. I'm on a wealth of knowledge. I'm on a wealth of experience.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to pause, as you say, that beautiful press that pause button and just go, actually, I do know my stuff.
Yeah.
And I do know who I want to help, and I do know where I'm going to take that next step. And that mountain over there is the one that I'm going to go to, not
Yeah.
that one over there. It's interesting. So you're currently climbing the new mountain because you have parked your car in that space that says, "I want to help people with their mental health."
Mm.
One of
Yeah.
the reasons we're talking about that today is we're coming up in the UK to Mental Health
Yeah.
Awareness Week, which one day is not enough. We've got the whole week. And one of our members is the founder of the World Mental Health Forum, which is
Yes.
a place for people to have really good conversations about this. And he has a week for the forum, which he does in October. But this awareness week is something that is dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Not just because you've had that experience of being adopted when you were younger, and possibly, as you say, adolescence is all roller coaster of emotions, isn't it? But you've also had a deeper, meaningful experience that most of us want to avoid like crazy.
Hmm.
And how you dealt with it. I'm curious to know how you dealt with it. So, do you want to explain what happened when you became ill? What were the symptoms?
Hmm.
How you kind of the realization, what was going on in your mind when you kind of found
Yeah.
out how serious it was?
So I'd love to use the theme of community to sort of as the kind of lens for
Mm,
this because it's a really good relevant side for me to link that to. And you'll obviously hear as well as others about this. So um, in 2017, I was about to jump on a plane to go to Japan. It was a brilliant initiative. I'd worked so hard to gain and get when the Financial Times said, Patrick, come out because I'd worked in marketing, because of my own consultancy business, where I was helping them sell to people like myself in the old days. They said, come out to Japan. I was like, I've never been to Japan. And I was also working with Google, the big brand, doing some training on their behalf for their clients. And then I had to stop because I fell off my bike in Victoria. Suddenly, I'd cycled in London for 12 years. I'd taken on all the traffic, thankfully, never had a problem, never got knocked off, but this time was slightly weird. I went to Chelsea Western Hospital and they did a scan on my shoulder because that's where the pain was. And they're like, right, anything else? I was like, no, I'm fine. I've got to go. And of course, this is kind of this non-collaboration attitude when you work alone.
mm,
And I'm sure people, listeners and viewers will connect with this fact that you have a reason to look after yourself last
yeah.
because you have family, clients. Just one more little email to send.
Yes.
I did. And then my kids went away on holiday and I was fine. Or so I thought. And 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I had been ignoring this pain in my mind, in my head,
Mm,
left in the front. Pain. And even the memory had been going and I wasn't being very professional, but I still had to just finish the work before I jumped on a plane to go and see my kids and wife. But I didn't because I had to go to Winchester Hospital with utter pain. And they took a scan, CT scan, which normally takes 5 seconds, and then just check in and move on. But no, 45 minutes later, thankfully I was with my mother.
oh gosh.
But 45 minutes later, no one had come, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then a junior doctor turned up and said to me, "Mr. Melville, come with me." There were four doctors, nurses next to her. They took me into a ward, and then in the ward, they shut the curtains and sat down. I remember this so vividly because they all hugged and sat next to my mother,
Oh,
not next to me.
wow.
In fact, I don't mind in some ways, but didn't. But I just remember that moment. I was like, okay. And the
That's,
junior doctor told me, Mr. Melville, we found a massive brain tumor on your front of your left side of the brain.
mm,
And I was like, well, what does that mean?
yeah.
Such new territory. And they told me it's called a glioblastoma.
Hmm.
It's the highest level you can get, 4 out of 4.
Oof.
It's come out of nowhere. And yeah, you will pump you full of steroids and you can go up to the ward
Yeah.
and then you can call people.
Oh my goodness.
Like, what? And they said, yeah, we're not a cancer hospital.
Oh no.
So I was like, okay. So I went upstairs, felt, thankfully my mother was there, that collaboration angle,
Yeah.
the way that she was there to help me. So my wife obviously was away on holiday, and hoping that I'll join. And I had to just call and find contacts who knew contacts. The first hospital was Southampton, and they were very well, they were doing their job, but not with me because then no one answered my calls. That's the first place I had to call. they're cancer experts.
So the hospital that you were in would just basically said we can't help you, and you were the one that's being shown initiative and ringing around to other hospitals to go, wait, can you? Wow, that's incredible.
Exactly. It's ironic that the more severe, sometimes the less so a hospital can do, the more you have to do.
Yeah.
I learned from that actually, how quite moving onwards in the
Mm,
way that I had to do it myself. I had more control. Call friends of friends. And again, this protective group came to me. I talk about the 6 C's of mental resilience. And one
yeah.
of the things is protection
Yeah.
in the framework of communities. And I was able to, in a couple of days, I was able to contact a friend of a friend who said he had the same issue and he recommended to speak to someone in London, a neurosurgeon based in University in London. Always forget the name. And he was called Neil Holland, and his PA said, "Come over." So I could get discharged, and I was able to speak to him, and then fast tracking, he said, "We can have a go."
Wow. Mm.
Literally, we'll have a go. We'll see what happens. It's high enough.
That's not exactly heartening, is it? Have a go. We'll see. It's like
Well,
better than nothing.
yeah, and also moving forward, I think one of the like anything, when you can't do anything or you feel isolated, that's can really lead to a negative reaction.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was able to move a bit forward, and he was able to do operation. I had it pretty much a week later,
Wow.
and he took up most of it. He said, "Okay, we'll see how it goes." Of course, you never know. I remember signing a form saying, "This might happen, this might happen." I have to say,
Yeah.
"That's okay, that's okay, that's okay."
Oof. Wow.
And uh, I came back. Luckily, I was able to go awake after being in the intensive unit for a while. And my wife was next to me, and I could talk, I could move, thankfully, because
Yeah.
I was young. I was 39.
Oh gosh.
And I didn't Google anything. Because if you Google terminal brain cancer, then you're not going to get. And of course, Google's not for that.
No.
Um, it turned out I had a 7.5% survival rate,
Whoa.
which I found out by mistake last year.
Really? Oh wow.
But I'm here. I'm alive 7 years later, and it's amazing experience. And to know that the famous film. I'm sure you know this, Jill, and anyone listening. The film Sliding Doors.
Mm.
What if? But I'm here. And I had radiotherapy for 6 weeks. Apparently, I'm getting older. My brain is older, so I do have a bit of memory loss.
Mm.
That's okay.
Welcome to yeah, that's plan B. Welcome
Hey,
to my world.
we're
Yeah.
not perfect, never perfect, but like
Yeah.
other people get epilepsy, and that's normal.
Mm.
So again, I have to sort of move that. And thankfully, I'm a very positive person. So I
Mm.
do the good things, and I was able to find other ways to help myself. And I had chemotherapy 2 years, and then an amazing story. My doctor said, my oncologist called Paul said, "You're stable." I was like, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Yeah, you're stable." I was like, "What?" And he goes, "You're in remission. My cancer had gone. The remaining part from the operation had gone."
Yeah.
So I'm very privileged. I'm very lucky to be here. And that's why I have to remind myself I'm not going to make the millions of pounds that other people make. But what I am going to do is make a difference.
Yeah.
And like COVID, I was able to do that as well in different ways, not just me,
Mm.
but collaborating with other companies and people who really wanted to help.
Yeah.
So that's what led me into my next working space.
Right. So the wow. I mean, were you tempted to go back to the original hospital and go, ta-da! You could have you could have helped me a bit more, perhaps. Um,
Well, yeah, I that was a waste of time. I mean, if I'm going to be honest and say people who are fighting cancer, I put my hand and say no. That's a waste of energy.
mm,
Fight cancer. How do you fight cancer? I think cancer is an illness which comes into you. I get what people want to say. I say you're wasting energy. It's sort of working. It's an illness which you should work with in terms of focus on ways to sort of things that you can control. Fighting is like what bang,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I embraced in some ways it's really weird. I embraced that I had that, but I didn't say I wanted to stay. I just said I want you to go. I think, I've got a lesson from this. I want to continue helping people. Um, and of course, there's a lovely lady called Sophie Savage who sadly passed away, but she said sort of I think she says working with cancer.
That's,
You don't stop. As soon as you're diagnosed, that means you can't do what you do. And this is actually linked to mental health.
mm,
People who are diagnosed with something can still do a really, really good job and make a really big difference,
yeah.
even though they're diagnosed, which is linked to my passion, my theme. I'd love to say I'm from my learning and my experience, I'm a catalyst to destigmatize people's approach to mental health, to use it as a place to support others as well as themselves. And again, cancer, that there's that side as well.
Yeah. So when you had just found out, or soon
Mm.
after when you'd found out, was there a time? I'm
Yeah.
trying to put myself in your shoes of how I would react in that situation. Was there a time when you kind of spiraled out of control where you didn't know how to deal with this
Mm.
news, this possibility that was, staring you in the face? Did you
Yeah.
hit rock bottom?
That's a really good question. And I do think about it daily because there's two sides of this. I think there's a younger, but sort of more naive Patrick would have said, yeah, I was struggling. I was all over the place because I wasn't. And I can only put this down to one of the big H words, which I do a workshop under the H's of healing. And the H word, which is part of that, is hope.
Mm.
Now, hope for me is something, and I'm not saying everyone this is for everyone, but I think it's something which is linked to the positive ways of how our whole well-being is connected.
Mm.
Is I had a belief. I'd actually gone to a church service the night before, not knowing what I had when I was diagnosed.
Wow.
And the word hope, I had people sort of surrounding me, when I was in utter pain. And I think whether that be in a church, whether that be for anyone, it's that protection, that P, which I also mentioned in mental resilience, that P, what protection do you have? That value. So yes, I was in pain, utter pain. Yes, obviously I hadn't, I, I was struggling a bit. I was struggling.
Mm.
I had the support to be able to help me move forward,
Mm.
and I did. Now, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but I think it's worth a go. Um, when I look back, I think the things I did, I mean, obviously I'm thinking, what would, am I more likely to have this again?
Mm.
Statistically, I'm not going to Google that because I take a lot of confidence that I can get hit by a car more, that kind of side. And
Mm.
when I have to relive those memories and compare myself to how I was before, and then maybe I'm not, I think that's dangerous.
Mm.
So does that make sense? I think I got to give, this is where I use the word guidance. This is what I do. I'm not going to advise people to do exactly what I did, or
Mm.
I'm just saying, that use those ways. But I did feel, I remember the night before I was diagnosed, I was feeling in pain and thinking, what on earth is going on?
Mm.
And, worry is a very big word, and I was pretty worried.
Mm.
And
Mm.
of course, my wife, she was stuck away. That
Yeah.
was also the thing to understand. She, everyone's focus was on me,
Yeah.
not my wife. Really, a bit of her, of course, but she would never admit it.
Mm.
And again, the collaboration was a good one, having that protection, that community around me helped me to share that, simple thing like my friends, some people didn't know how to respond. So my wife and I, well, my wife delegated one of her very good friends, a maid of honor, to be the person who would update people. So people wouldn't have to go to her. She could focus on what to do.
Mm.
make sure the kids are okay, um, and for me as well. But at the same time, for her to get some help
Mm.
in different ways.
I remember that word. A lot of people think hope is the equivalent to wishing for something to happen,
Mm,
but it's much more powerful than that. The true definition is something that is given, is like it's realized. If you're hoping for something, it can be realized and it will come to you. And
mm,
so it gives you that strength that is out there that you can hang on to. And I think sometimes you can control stuff and sometimes you have to let it go.
mm.
And knowing the difference is whether you're going to conserve your energy or going to waste your energy. Uh,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
friend of mine had a horrendous time when her son died
Mm,
crossing the road,
mm,
and 9 months, and he was 22.
mm,
9 months later, her daughter crossing the road was knocked
mm,
over by a motorbike and suffered severe brain damage.
mm,
Um, and the hope that my friend had, and I said to her as we were going to the hospital for the 10th time,
mm.
I don't know how you're doing this. And she said, I don't have a choice. It's
Yeah.
not like you can abandon your child, or you're going through the motions, but she had to let go of what could be, what happened, what didn't happen, what
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
what future for her daughter was going to be, because at that point she was just a vegetable in a bed in
Mm,
a coma. And the fact that she had faith and hope, and people on 7 continents were praying for this girl
yeah.
who was 27 at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it was 6 weeks later, she walked out of the hospital and went to find the surgeon who'd operated on her brain. And he said, and who are you? She said, I'm Amy. You operated on me, blah, blah. He said, no, you're not. He said, yes, I am. He said, but you're walking. That's not what normally happens.
No, no.
And
And
sometime later her life has been affected by it, certainly, and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
things she can't do and there's things she can do, but the hope that her mum had then has been rewarded, in the fact that her daughter is her best friend now, still alive, and that's what, 10 years, yeah, just over
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and this exactly matches what, these H's I mentioned healing.
Mm,
I do have a healer. She's a spiritual guide. She's not actually Christian, but we connect. And my point here is that she taught me the H's. She said for healing, and then I would, for anyone to have this, whatever it is, you got to be honest. You
mm,
can't be the stoical person saying, I'm okay. And again, I feel this collaboration global is something where I can be like this,
yeah,
honest, humble, like you need help, and then ask for help.
yes,
I'm sorry, to hear, to listen to other people. We're not very good listeners. To
no,
say, how can you help me? You're humble, honest, and listen and hear. And then from that, you get hope. Oh, okay, maybe things can be done. You get help and you get happiness.
yeah,
Of course, the punchline is your heart. Your heart's the most important thing in some ways. And, you know, I'm a father at a school. I think I mentioned it, just, much, much more wealthy families than me. But then my heart, I have to remind myself though, that my heart tells me you're okay.
mm,
And you're lucky, that kind of side. So
yeah.
the natures of healing I would recommend, and I do with my workshops based around my story. I'm not for everybody.
No, and not everybody has kind of that. So if they've been through a trauma like that is one thing, but
Mm,
being aware of your mental health, sometimes you can look at somebody who's been through that trauma and think, well, if he's gone through that, I better
mm,
listen to him, because actually I've only tripped over, and I've got hardly any problems, but I still struggle with my mental health. And understanding those kind of processes you can go through, from devastation through to
mm.
happiness and ultimately joy,
Yeah.
then you can take from what other people's experiences are. You might not have had the same experience, but you can certainly take something from that. And
Yeah.
that's why I was interested to find out whether you felt at any point you were spiraling out of control, or whether you
Yeah.
felt, you know,
I think on that point, I to stop me spiraling control, I found out of control
mm,
is a C word. I actually have a list of C words as well. And one of them is control.
Mm.
We tend to focus on what we can't control, like when my clients don't come back to me,
Yeah.
or when they turn me down, that's what I mean, the smaller things in life, what we've been discussing just now,
Yeah. Yeah.
dying. The big D word. I'm very, I talk to people about that, and I don't want that to be a stigma, but it is to say,
Mm.
we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
And I hope listeners aren't going to be too annoyed by this. But my point is about control. We tend to focus on what we can't control. And
Mm.
when I was coming back, something that helped me was about finding ways. So, for example, I saw a nutritionist,
Mm.
and the nutrition told me not just what not to eat and what to eat, but other things around me, like, have a warm bath, to don't have, and I can show you my mobile phone, don't have it next to you on your bed.
No.
Have it downstairs. Turn off your Wi-Fi. Bit of common sense. Don't eat cow's milk. I'm not saying it's bad for you. It's a balanced diet, but that nutrition has helped me to have control, and I think that had an angle.
Mm.
Um, a neurologist who gave a talk I went to the brain tumor charity in London in Barron's Court. I remember she told me very vividly in front of everyone, like a group of 500 people. She said the most surviving people, and this is for any trauma, any condition, she said, she's seen. It's not about the medicine you take. The biggest connection are those who do two things. One, who are positive, and another one who have control.
Mm.
So I really took that to what can I control? What can I do? And I think we've discussed that several times, on and off, that C word, to control and
Mm.
help the community you're working with in, those pressures that we have to hit those numbers, to make people perform better, etc., to just be happy, appreciate, control themselves.
Control is about not stressing about what you can't do, but focusing on what you can do, and making that impact that you can do. And the tiniest little impact is, one of our members, Gina, always talks about, if you think you have no impact because you're just one person all on your own and you need an army to make a difference, try spending the night with a mosquito and then see what impact that can have. It's just,
Yes.
um, we all have that ability to make a big impact. And by being in control of what we can control and not stressing about what we can't, you have to let some things go. It really doesn't matter. It's like if you've had an argument with somebody and it's going round and round and round in your head,
Yeah.
just let it go in whichever way you can let it go, because just by ruminating on it, you're bringing back the emotions, and the emotions are going to be damaging you as well. So you don't really need to be doing that. It's not serving anyone for you to relive that experience when you should have said this and you could have said that and you didn't say this,
Yeah.
you wish you'd said that. Let it go. You go for let it
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
that in itself is taking action. That is making a choice to let it go. And the more choices you make to empower yourself,
Yeah.
the better your mental health can be as well.
Yeah. I love it, Joe, because that sort of matches my C's as well. Control, choice,
Yeah.
and along with collaboration, and also celebrate, those little things that you think people won't admire, but you don't rely on that, well, say well done, tap yourself on the back.
Yeah, we do that every week on the platform. There's a post that goes up for the community that says, right, how was your week? Tell us
Yeah.
the good stuff. And sometimes tell us the bad stuff as well, but we'll find the good in there. There's always a little rainbow somewhere. You can't always see it.
Mhm.
And it's like counting your blessings and just being grateful for the good stuff that's happened. And that raises your vibration in the universe, and then more stuff can come your
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. The more you give, the more you get back.
Yeah, there's a
But
song.
it's a hard one to do.
There was a song when I was about 4 or 5 at nurseries and school. And I think I've said this on here before, but it was, the words were, I won't sing it for you, but the words were, love is something if you give it away. Just like a magic penny, hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor, because love is something if you give it away, you end up having more.
Yeah.
And it's
But
as a
it's so close to that heart, isn't it? That it's quite normal to feel I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that. Um,
Mm,
but of course, when you do, you realize in different ways. Like I like being a volunteer. You
yeah.
know, I I'm giving free workshops to next week, especially to Mental Health Awareness Week. But, again, I don't know what's going to come back, but I'm confident that things will.
You'll be sending out that karma to come back to you.
Well, I hope, yeah. I love it. I'm gonna when I turn off this, this recording, you know, hopefully it's probably turn off. Yeah, I might be like, no, I'm joking. Obviously, this is an outtake, obviously.
Oh, we keep those in. We never chop anything up. It all stays
Oh
in.
no!
So, on that note,
Yes.
if somebody is struggling with a mental health now, or knows somebody that struggles with being positive,
Yeah.
or in fact is going through a horrendous treatment or experience like you had, and they want to get hold of you, what's the easiest way that they can get hold of you?
I'd say you can go to my website to see the kind of things I do. So what I can do is I do two things in terms of I do one-to-ones.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to chat with me, just a chat. You can tell I'm quite an extrovert.
Mm.
I love chatting, but like someone else in this interview, um, which is good. But in the way that I'm very happy to have a chat with them, so to get in touch with me. That's one thing. The other thing is, of course, the more work in terms of mental health training.
Yeah.
So I do mental health first aid England for those who can't see or see there. But also I do also other programs. So for Mental Health Awareness Week, I'm doing programs about communities. The best way is to see my email address, which is, and to write on it, shall I say it out loud?
Yeah,
Or
say it out loud,
so it's
absolutely.
Patrick at melville-solutions.com.
There we
So
go.
Melville at, sorry,
Start again.
you would have thought I'm going to mix up with my web address. So it's Patrick at Melville, MELVILLE hyphen solutions, SOLUTIONS.com, or my website, www.melville-solutions.com. Just have a look. And I'm very happy to talk. You can see examples of me talking actually professionally as well in a group, like with CNBC, Universal, those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Or yeah, just go from there. I'm really up it, and I hope some of the members will love our chat.
Or if anybody wants to meet Patrick and you want to come along to a Collaboration Global session, we have our guest sessions that he's usually popped up there, and you can have a chat with him there. And you can find us on collaborationglobal.org, or you can come along to check us out on Eventbrite and look for Collaboration Global. And all of our sessions are free, and you can register for one of those as well. Patrick, I feel like this is a definite part one in what we're talking about. We've scratched the surface, but how fascinating what you've been through that, most of us do not experience, most of us definitely do not want to experience, but the bravery and the fortitude and the resilience of being able to go, right, let's ring this hospital, let's ring somebody else, and finding somebody and speaking to people who know people that know people, and then finding that person that was amazing to be able to help you and have you standing here sharing. You've now got this mission in you to help people with their mental health. It's like the universe has been following you. It's like, no, not yet. This is going to be helping you. And then you can now go and help other people. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute joy. And I'm sure we will catch up with you in the not too distant future. Okay. Nice to see you, everybody. Take care.